I'll keep it very short. Maybe this is the smallest session which I've ever taken. I'll start with a video which what I meant by smallest. Can you start with the first video, Chiryan? So my previous background, 4-5 years back, I used to take sessions like this in stadiums with almost 25,000 students attending together.
Circles inside, the last one being just a point. So you're looking at 5 circles here. What is important is, now if I just write 2 simple terms here, cut the diagram and open the diagram like this, using, let's say, a radius, you can convert.
I used to stand on top of that 6-sided screen
like this. When you
and
open the circle,
used to do these kind of sessions all over India in 9 cities in the biggest indoor stadium. So this is the largest stadium in Delhi. So I did this for almost 3-4 years before thinking about how can it be bigger than this. So now I'll go back. First 2-3 minutes I'll spend, I'll keep it very fast, maybe 15-20 minutes, and last 5 minutes I'll take questions. So I'm not sure at that pace whether you will understand my accent, but I'm not trying to change that. So I started with, just to dramatize the story, I'll tell that I come from a small village, which is a fact, but it's contrary to what people think. What investors think it's a big advantage, because that's where you learn how to trust everyone on the other side of the table, and how to work in a team, how to lead a team, how to have that high aspiration, how to have that killer instincts. These are things which you learn when you grow up in a small village, in a close-knit community. In fact, it was a communist village, but I've learned all the good things about communism from my village, and went to a normal school, government school in India, non-English medium. So the average English which I speak here is what I've learned very contextually by listening to cricket commentaries, because I was addicted to sports on radio, and I've learned math and science literally on my own. As such, the school wouldn't have had any influence on my learning, because I used to bunk almost all my classes starting from 8th grade onwards. So I used to skip classes, maybe attend once a week, and then parents, teachers, I went to the same school, but they still gave me the freedom to skip all the classes as much as possible. I played 6 different games at university level, 3 of them at state level. So all the good things about sports, I brought it back into life, in terms of, that's where you learn all the real life skills, which I already talked about, how to work in a team, how to lead a team, how to have that killer instinct, how to perform under pressure, all those things, combined with the logic which I learned from my love of math. That's my first love. My first love is math. Math, which I always learned well beyond exams. And the learning on my own. So today all our products talk about, or they stand for self-paced learning, self-paced personalized learning. So it's not based on any assumption, it's based on the strong belief that you learn the best when you learn on your own, where not depending on spoon feeding, because the systems in India and most parts of Asia, it's driven by exams, fear of exams, and not love of learning, where students are kind of memorizing, replicating, and then forgetting, and they start again. It's not based on, so we are talking about a system which creates students who are learning how to solve questions made by someone else. They don't ask questions. Asking questions is unheard of. So that kind of spoon feeding, that system, which even the good students, very few of them have conceptual clarity, because they only learn how to do well in an exam, and most of them won't even figure out the subjects which they like, and fail to capitalize on their strengths because of all these reasons. So I am going back to, but this didn't have any influence on me, because learning on my own helped me to, as a national math Olympiad winner when I was in 8th grade itself. I finished last few exams again by topping at national level. GMAT kind of exams, I was 100%. I took that exam 2 times. 2 times I scored 100%. Never went to IIMs, because exams, I always used to take exams for fun. In fact, I took those exams, I was helping my friends, so those who came to me, because all of them knew me as someone who's good in cheating in exams, because they never used to find me in classrooms. I used to do well in exams. Now, that's just a short background, but I've always followed my dreams. My parents always gave the freedom to do things which I liked, and that's why I always tell I'm an engineer by chance, a teacher by choice, which I realized after teaching my friends, and which kind of made me an entrepreneur by chance. So how it happened is, I started teaching my friends way back in 2003 during vacation, because they came to me for that shortcut techniques to do well in exams like GMAT, and started with a small group of 35 students. I took that session only once. Never thought about adding another batch of 35. From 35, I went and booked an auditorium of 1,200. So thinking big is always part of the game. I'm assuming there are half of you are entrepreneurs or those who are thinking about starting off. And the key is, thinking big is 50%. So from a batch of 35, next week I went and booked an auditorium of 1,200, which got filled in 6th week. Then beyond auditoriums, the next level possible was stadiums. So I showed you a video of stadiums, which kind of I used to fill stadiums in 9 different cities. 9 different cities is the maximum a person can handle during a week. So I used to travel to 9 cities
during 7 days. Weekends I used to cover 4 cities and did all these things on my own. Did this till 2009. In between, I also kept all those safety measures like graduation and doing the job which you kind of will get from campus and things like that. But this is something which I pursued to a level where I like it. I'm still a long way away from success. People consider, relatively, you can say we have created the largest edtech company in India, raised close to 150 million plus in terms of funding and all those things. But we are yet to reach 1% of the student population in India. So it's for others, it's relatively successful, but for us, there's a long way to go, because before you even call it a revolution, really, if you want to call it an impact, maybe you should first change the way at least 10% of the students learn. But we know that we are on our path. Aspiration is so high that you'll end up reaching somewhere close. So now, and it'll be very unstructured. If you're expecting a structured presentation, like, I mean, I'm not used to that, but you'll still find some logic, something which you can take back. And also you'll get real value for time, because 15 minutes I'll try to cover what maybe you will get in 30, 40 minutes. And that was always the reason for our success, because if you go through our videos, you'll understand that what you get in 10 seconds is what you normally get in 1 minute in most of the other videos available. Can you just play video number 5, Saryan? It's just a 10-second video, but I'm sure.
Take a circle, fill it with circles, cut and open. Outer circle is a line now of length 2 pi r. Lines above shorter and shorter till it's a triangle with area pi r square.
That's not teaching you anything, but that's leaving you with questions. And it's always about that, making sure that making sure that we bring that childlike curiosity back in the system, so that students learn when they used to learn like a 3-year-old, because that's what we are all supposed to learn. If you can learn, if the learning is driven by that curiosity which is a necessity in real learning or in right learning, so we focus on making sure that they learn how to learn. We don't, like more than focusing on what to learn, we focus on the hows and whys of learning. So what we did is, starting from 2011, now one thing which happened by chance is, because I used to take those stadium sessions, created a large, not just student following, fan following, because if you're taking a session in a stadium, that too a math session, considered boring normally, because math is normally very abstract and not made contextual. You have to take those sessions. It can't be a class. It has to be almost like a performance. I'm trying to create that artificial energy even in such a like a small audience, but I'm used to kind of literally like doing it like a performance, because only then you need to make sure that you're not giving them a chance to get distracted. Because if you want to make sure that they are listening to you for 3 hours, that too in such a large audience, that's something which it's not. You have to make sure that you give your best every minute. Otherwise, they will switch off. Now, 2011, I formed the company in a very unique way. I got some of my best students, those who by that time they went to IIMs and came back. I didn't waste my 2 years, but because I started this and it became, by chance it started becoming bigger and bigger year after year. Still it's growing like that or faster than that. So got 5, 6 of my top students who were in BCGs and McKinsey's came back, started focusing on the school segment in 2011. And there was no pressure of launching the product. We took almost 4 years. 4 years of product development, iterations, multiple ways of figuring out what are the different formats. There is no single format which will be successful, right? You have to make sure that all of us learn in very different ways, like in figuring out how they learn, when they learn, how much they learn, how fast they learn. So while launching, initially we were focused only on test prep, very successful test prep brand, because we reached out to a good percentage of the audience. While creating a school segment, we were sure that the substance alone won't do the job, because there is no point in, if you want effectiveness, you also need to make sure that you are getting enough engagement. So we made sure that we took almost like a 3-pronged approach of creating a content, media, and a technology team. Contrary to what, rather than taking a one-dimensional approach of solving these big challenges. So the challenges which are there in most of the systems, especially even more so in India, it's about what are the 3 core challenges. If you ask me, good teachers are hard to find because teachers are not paid well at all. The second one is even in a 20 classroom, it can never be personalized. But the biggest challenge in India is like almost all of them learn for exams. They learn by, as I told you, that literally mugging up every subject, even the most logical subjects like math, people memorize. And they do it almost like this for you to get I'm sure some of you would have gone through Indian system, but others, for you to get the context, I'll take 30 seconds for that. This is how they learn. Even the good students, those who get into the IITs and IIMs, 80% of them or even more, they learn literally without understanding, by memorizing, and almost like this. I'm giving you an example from math. So a topic like arithmetic progression, I'm sure almost all of you remember from your 10th grade, 11th grade. It's learned like almost like a poem. So an AP will sound like this. AP is A plus T A plus N minus 1, which is nth term, something N by N to first term plus N by N to 2 A, 3 constant AP plus A minus T A plus T, 4 is A minus D minus D A plus T A plus D. If you add it, all the D's will cancel and find D. AP basic concepts are over, but you can't stop there. Then the next point number 2 in algebra will sound like geometric progression and will sound like this. AR square, AR raised to N minus 1, which is nth term. Sum to N is A into R raised to N minus by R minus 1, or A into 1 minus R raised to N by 1 minus R based on R is less than whatever one. 3 constant G equal to A by R, AR followed by A by R cube, A by R, AR cube multiply. R will cancel and find out R. Sum to infinity A by 1 minus R, APGP basic concepts, it's not even enough for their board exams. They don't stop their preparation over there. The books are bigger and heavier as and when they move up from 9 to 10 to 10 to 11. If you're carrying those 4-5 books, you don't need to go to a gym in 11th standard. All of them will carry 4-5 different books. Parents will buy everything available. Whether they have time to go through or whether it's interesting to go through, nobody is bothered. And they don't stop their preparation over there. It's just the beginning, and they continue like this 20 more seconds. Some of the first P terms and the first Q terms, and some of the first P plus Q in an AP, and an AP, if P term is Q and Q term is P. Then T is in an AP, M times the M term is N times N term, then in an AP, first plus last, second last, 2 times in a GP, first and last, second, I can go on and on and on. This is not learning, but this is what is followed by most of the students, even good students. They don't figure out, they never experience the fun in real learning. Real learning, which is based on asking questions. It has to be based on asking questions, where the initiatives have to come from students. It's not, teachers have to play a supporting role. Parents should play a supporting role. There are very few classrooms which I've attended. Last 2 weeks back, I was there in one classroom in Harvard. That's how all classrooms should be, where teacher is just standing back. Like, very few teachers will take that, and like very, very meaningful discussions. The concepts will go to the next level. But that's just a dream, when it's very difficult to replicate that in the offline system. So out of the 3 challenges which I mentioned, access is a big challenge. Access to good teachers is a big challenge. The challenge number 2 is personalizing is impossible in an offline classroom. And the third one is real learning format. Like, how can we make them learn like a 3-year-old? Because they ask so many questions, right? Do we ask 50 questions every day? They ask 50 questions every day. The way we learned before joining our system and after coming out of the system, today we all learn. Every day we learn. Like, that's why we are sitting here, right? We are all lifelong learners. But how to learn? I don't know whether we focus enough. Now, these 3 challenges can only be solved anywhere. I mean, these are the extent of these challenges are very high in India and some parts of Asia, but it's there almost everywhere. This can only be solved at scale by using tech as an enabler, and it has to be education first, tech as an enabler. Now, access can easily be solved by, that's why we use smartphones. When we decided to use smartphones only in 2014, launched the app in 2015. But we started building this content from 2011, creating personalized content for every grade, at all levels, for all curriculums. That's a time-consuming effort. That's almost like, that's our best, almost 200 researchers and teachers and brilliant students also are passionate about the subject. They sit together for hours and hours, for years and years, coming out with personalized content. And parallelly, we also created a personalized platform. So doing things at the intersection of content, media, and technology. Now, why media is important, which is, now, if you just observe that there are, over here itself, there are companies with the media background, there are companies with tech background. What we did is we kind of brought all of them together and created the product at the intersection of content. Now, they take care of 3 core functions. Content team, they are the ones who make it effective. Media, they are the ones who make it interesting. Now, finding the right balance between keeping it effective and keeping it interesting. This is very, very important. And what the tech team is doing is they are actually solving the problem of access. They make sure that it's scalable, but more importantly, they are the ones who are taking it, making it personalized, using a personalized adaptive platform and content now doing it together is very, very important. You can't just create an adaptive platform and ask someone else to create content. While sitting together and making it and that's why the results are there for everyone to see. Before getting into those, so how we approach this, so even figuring, and so at every point, we made sure that it's a group effort of researchers, teachers, and those who are passionate about the subject. And for presenting, we went with teachers who will have a good screen presence, and instead of doing it the other way around, you can also make sure that there are 2 approaches. You can take teachers who can act, or you can take actors who can teach. But we went with the first approach, and it really worked. So, and we launched this app 2015 August. It's just been like slightly more than 20 months. 10 million downloads. Now, that's a wrong metric, which a lot of investors just focus too much on those number of downloads. But the most important thing is engagement is very high. The fact that students are liking it. We never focused on, like, there are multiple ways of approaching this. You can focus on students, parents, teachers, schools. But in India, your best chance is directly going to the students. It's easy.
the easiest is to change the learning habit of a student rather than trying to change the system. It can easily coexist with the system because this is for learning on their own subjects which they like and giving them the flexibility of whenever they want, whatever they want, how many ever times they want, and also helping them the right kind of, figuring out the pace of learning, size of learning, and style of learning. The first two we have already solved. The third one is our aspiration. Also to figure out, once we have enough data about how the students are learning, figuring out the style of learning, whether he or she is a contextual learner or a visual learner, or whether he or she is a theoretical learner, figuring out and giving it in the right format. Some of us will learn better if it's given as ABC, some of us will learn better if it's CBA. Now, this can't be done in an offline classroom. So the second advantage of this kind of a format, so the technology is obviously to personalize, but more importantly, it can also be used to improve the delivery. Here what can be done now. Can you just play, I'll play a product window which will give you a clear idea on why we get such high engagement, almost 40 minutes per day, or 40 minutes per day from every premium user, and that's a large number. We have almost 400,000 paid users on annual subscription. So I'll show you a 90-second video which will give you an indication of why we get such high engagement. Number 2.
Take a square, take A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. Now join the 4 points. Unshaded region is C square here. Now in the same diagram, if I push this up and bring these two together, if I push this to the right and bring this down, unshaded region A square plus B square equal to C square here.
So now what we're going to do is that we're going to take the string of the guitar, visualize the air parallelly with the slinky as it compresses and gets pulled back, and see both as a graph, and watch what we observe. So the string of the guitar moves upward.
So if you see this, the moment you take the teacher out, you're creating an offline system. Now, it's very difficult for anyone to make it this effective or interesting without the help of a very specialized media team behind. A media team who will also understand content is important. Now, one thing, it's real value for time. Second, it's engaging because you can actually see everything. So the first line, the guitar is the contextual part here. The second one is what people can easily visualize, which is a slinky, before showing the boring theoretical part. Can you just finish the next 40 seconds? So it's a real teacher interacting with the virtual objects over there. So rather than just capturing a video, a session like this in an actual classroom, or rather than just using animation, we have combined both. It's like real teachers interacting with virtual objects, creating both like a face for the video, and which creates engagement, but it makes it effective because he's made to look like a lot more powerful than what he actually is. Okay, so now we have made, so videos is just one part of it. The key is all of them are made in like just 2 or 3 minute modules and tagged with at all levels what is required for our adaptive platform. Now, we have used all formats. Videos is one part of it, which everyone will like as soon as they see. It's important that students like what they see on the screen. We use interactive formats, we use assessments, all of them in a very, very personal. You can download, even here you can download and check that out, how it's getting personalized depending on now. So, no, this is about, the engagement is a clear indication that students like this. Students are downloading the app and not parents. Parents are not forcing them, because even all our campaigns are directly focused on students. While creating the product, we focused on students. And the second one is a clear indication of its effectiveness, because on an annual subscription basis, getting an 89% renewal on a very large base is what we have just got in our first complete year of after the app launch. So these two are clear, and that too at price points of almost $150. Now, this is considering the fact that the ecosystem, both in terms of digital infrastructure, is still many years behind US. The payment infrastructure is like if you talk about the credit card penetration is in like single-digit percentages. So people expect everything to be free. So they were not paying for, the willingness to pay for online learning was never there. So we are actually creating a segment, but all these challenges are offset with because of an important thing, because willingness to pay for education or willingness to pay for better learning is very high in India and most parts of Asia. And that's kind of a big positive. they will, when they see that students are using their smartphones and for a change for learning, it's a big surprise for parents. And so we get high engagement all across. It's not just used by metro affluent class. Can you just show the graph, which almost 1,700 plus towns, we have more than 10 users. And if you see the metro usage is only 24%, 3/4 of the users come outside the metros. And that's a clear indication that this is literally for everyone. We have created the product only in English today. That's almost 40% of the student population in India. We are fast creating products in other languages so that it can make a real impact across all classes. Where we are figuring out how we can take that to schools and libraries and give it free, because you have a strong, profitable model on one side using which you can subsidize to the kind of schools where I went. So we are fast building products in vernacular languages. We'll be launching that in the next few months. Now, so the most important thing here is, we have, while creating the product, we kept students in mind. Maybe the initial experience of teaching thousands of students and bringing those students to create the product is helping us. But just to finish it off, it's still, we are still, so it's the largest K-12 education system in the world. Almost 260 million students are there in India alone. Every grade, 25 million students. We are not even reaching out to 1% of the students. That's why I told you that it's relatively we are successful, but long way to go. But we are in a segment where real fun is not in creating a $1 billion company. It's changing the way millions of students think and learn. Thanks a lot. So we have 3 minutes, though I was trying my best to finish it off in 15.
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. It's a wonderful product. I'm just wondering, how do you make sure it's a personalized learning? Do you use it, because for it to be personalized, you actually need to test the level of students, right? So how does it work?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
the more time they spend on the app, we understand more about the students. So depending on their proficiency level and their pace of learning, so can you just play the 30-second video, Charya? It will give you some indication. It's inside. So since the content is all tagged, videos are tagged, games are tagged, so we use games in the lower grades. Higher grades is mostly, learning is driven by videos. We have learn, practice, and analyze, and learn again. So it's a loop. So number 4. So depending on, you start at a certain level. If you are, like, if you make a mistake, you'll take a different route. If you are getting it right, you might finish the learn journeys faster. So there are 5,000 plus learn journeys with 25,000 plus activities inside the app. And that's what we've been building for last 4 years with a large, almost 550 member product development team. That's where, so almost half the funds which we have raised, close to 100 million, has gone into product development. So since our initial model was profitable, there was no pressure of launching the product well in advance. So we launched the product after having it for 6 grades. Now we have it for 9 grades. That helps us to go very aggressive in creating brand building by being on TV and digital, where and it's a very, very large segment with huge challenges in terms of right learning. So this is how it happens. Maybe like glimpse of how it happens. Ideally, you should download and check the app. We have 2 apps, one for higher grades and one for lower grades. Yeah, it's direct to students and parents. It's completely B2C. So.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. So one thing you said is great learning happens when a lot of questions can be asked. So what's that currently in the product, and what are you developing so that students can ask you 50 questions a day?
No, we encourage students to think. So they obviously they can't ask questions back to the app. So the product is created in such a way that there is enough for, so we leave them with like enough questions which they will think over, because we ask those questions in a very interesting manner. So
yes.
Asking questions, like if you ask me, is it possible to do that back to an app and in an interactive way? It's not there in the app.
But can you connect, so if they're struggling with algebraic expressions, they can connect back to like a lower level?
They have an option of getting support from mentors. But that's like, since they have multiple format learning available, a very small percentage of the students actually ask those questions. Yeah, thanks a lot.